Would classify them as competitors or even adversaries, but the tie between China and the United States is arguably the world's most important geopolitical relationship. The race in the digital realm is also as competitive as ever.
Next 3 years will determine whether the United States remains a technological superpower or becomes dependent on China for everything that matters. And right now, China is placing a $1 trillion bet that most Americans don't even know is happening. This isn't speculation. This is unfolding right now. And what I'm about to show you will change how you see the next decade of global power.
Creates a mutually beneficial relationship that challenges traditional Western dominance on the continent. For the United States, this development is a wake-up call. Washington must recognize that influence cannot be assumed. It must adapt, engage, and offer solutions that are relevant, timely, and effective. If America continues to rely solely on historical relationships and promises, it risks being sidelined in a continent that is increasingly dynamic, assertive, and globally connected. The partnership between Africa and China is also sending ripples across global markets. Technology industries, telecommunications companies, and investment firms are closely monitoring the progress of these agreements. Competitors around the world are reevaluating their strategies and considering how to respond to Africa's growing influence and China's expanding reach. This is not just a regional story. It is a global story, one that affects trade, innovation, and power dynamics across continents. Africa's decision highlights a larger trend: the rise of emerging powers and the redistribution of global influence. Countries that were once considered peripheral are now central to major economic and technological initiatives. Africa is no longer a passive observer. It is a key player. Its choices shape markets, influence policy, and determine the trajectory of global technology adoption. This is a historic moment, and those who recognize it early stand to benefit the most. The benefits for African nations are clear. Access to cutting-edge technology can transform education, healthcare, transportation, and governance. Digital infrastructure can connect rural communities, improve access to services, and drive innovation. Advanced manufacturing and industrial projects can create jobs, stimulate economies, and reduce dependence on imports. By partnering with China, Africa accelerates its development while maintaining control over its priorities and strategies. The U.S. response, meanwhile, has been cautious. Officials are exploring ways to regain influence, proposing new initiatives, and attempting to strengthen traditional alliances. Yet the challenge is significant. The African continent is no longer waiting for Western approval or assistance. It is making decisions that reflect its own vision for the future. The era of automatic Western influence is over. This transformation also carries lessons for other regions. Nations around the world are observing Africa's strategy, understanding that assertive, pragmatic partnerships can yield results. Africa is setting a new standard for how emerging economies can engage with global powers. It demonstrates that development, technology, and influence are not gifts from the West, but tools that can be acquired through strategic decision-making, negotiation, and vision. In addition to technology, these partnerships also signal opportunities for regional collaboration. African nations are increasingly coordinating their efforts, sharing knowledge and creating integrated strategies for growth. By leveraging technology, infrastructure, and investment, the continent is building a foundation for long-term prosperity. This collective approach amplifies Africa's influence and strengthens its bargaining power in global discussions. The timing of these moves is also critical. As the global economy faces uncertainty, supply chain disruptions, and rapid technological change, Africa's ability to choose partners that deliver tangible benefits gives it a significant advantage. Countries that adapt quickly to global trends, embrace innovation, and make strategic choices will lead the next wave of growth and development. Africa is positioning itself as one of those leaders. China benefits from this partnership by expanding its footprint in a resource-rich, strategically located continent. Investments in technology, infrastructure, and digital systems create opportunities for Chinese companies while reinforcing China's global influence. At the same time, African nations gain access to the tools, knowledge, and resources necessary to compete globally. This synergy creates a powerful dynamic that challenges traditional power structures and reshapes the global landscape. Despite the excitement, challenges remain. Negotiations must be carefully managed, projects executed effectively, and potential risks mitigated. African leaders are aware of these realities and are actively addressing them. They understand that progress requires careful planning, oversight, and accountability. The goal is sustainable development that strengthens nations rather than creating new dependencies. For ordinary citizens, these changes are tangible. Improved connectivity, faster communication, modernized infrastructure, and access to technology have immediate impacts on daily life. Students can access better education platforms, businesses can reach new markets, and communities can benefit from enhanced services. The long-term effect is a more capable, competitive, and self-sufficient continent. Observers around the world are taking note. Policy analysts, investors, and international leaders are watching Africa's moves closely. This is not just about technology. It is about influence, power, and the future of global leadership. Africa's decision to partner with China demonstrates confidence, vision, and a commitment to self-determined growth. Ultimately, the story of Africa choosing China over the US is a story of empowerment. It is about nations asserting control over their destiny, leveraging global competition, and making strategic choices that benefit their people. It is a lesson in pragmatism, foresight, and bold leadership. The United States may have been caught off guard, but this is not a moment of failure. It is an opportunity. Washington can choose to adapt, engage, and offer meaningful partnerships that reflect the priorities and needs of African nations. If it does, the U.S. can remain a key player on the continent. If it doesn't, it risks losing influence in a region that is rapidly becoming central to the world economy, technology, and geopolitics. Africa's partnership with China is historic, transformative, and strategically bold. It represents a new era in international relations, one where nations are no longer. Africa just made a move that has the world talking. In a decision nobody saw coming, Africa turned away from the US and chose China for its tech deals. Washington is shocked, analysts are scrambling, and the implications could change the balance of global power forever. For decades, America assumed it had influence over African nations. Companies, governments, and leaders relied on US partnerships, expecting Africa to follow the old path. But this time, Africa chose differently. Instead of waiting for promises, it went straight to results, fast, bold, and strategic. China's technology and investments have been growing quietly, but now the world can see the full impact. From smart infrastructure to advanced digital projects, Africa is aligning with a partner that delivers tangible progress, and the United States. They weren't ready. They didn't expect Africa to take control of its own future so boldly. This decision isn't just about tech, it's a signal to the entire world. Africa is no longer willing to play second fiddle. Nations are waking up, power is shifting, and the global stage is being rewritten. So what exactly did Africa agree to? How will this affect global politics, trade, and technology? And why is Washington now panicking behind closed doors? In this video, we'll break it all down, explain what it means for the US, China, and Africa, and reveal why this could be one of the most important moves of the decade. The world isn't ready for this shift, but Africa already is. Africa has just made a move that has left the world stunned. In a decision that few predicted, African nations are turning toward China for technological partnerships, leaving the United States in a position it did not anticipate. For decades, the US assumed its influence over Africa was unshakable. Governments, companies, and policymakers believed Africa would continue to rely on American technology, infrastructure, and investment. But that era of automatic influence is ending. Africa is stepping into a new phase of self-determination, ambition, and strategic choice, and the world is watching closely. The decision to partner with China did not happen overnight. It is the result of years of observation, negotiation, and long-term planning by African leaders who are increasingly aware of their continent's potential. Africa is rich in resources, talent, and opportunity, but for too long it has waited on promises from Western nations. The US offered deals with strings attached, loans that came with political conditions, and technology that was sometimes outdated or limited. Africa grew tired of waiting, tired of being told what it could or couldn't do, and tired of seeing its needs ignored while global powers debated and delayed. China approached Africa differently. The approach was direct, pragmatic, and results-focused. It focused on delivering real infrastructure, real technology, and real investment. From smart city projects to digital banking, telecommunications expansion, and advanced manufacturing, China offered tangible solutions that African nations could implement immediately. It was not about politics or control. It was about building capabilities that Africa desperately needed. African leaders recognized this and understood that this was an opportunity they could not afford to miss. The response from the United States has been one of shock. Washington did not anticipate Africa moving decisively in this way. Analysts in American think tanks have scrambled to understand the scope of these partnerships, and government officials are quietly reconsidering their strategies on the continent. The realization has set in that Africa is no longer content to follow a predetermined path. It is choosing partners that deliver results, regardless of historical alliances. This shift is monumental. Africa's choice to align more closely with China in technology signals a change in the balance of global influence. Technology is the backbone of modern economies. It drives growth, innovation, communication, and trade. By choosing China, Africa is gaining access to advanced technology that can accelerate its development faster than ever before. Smart infrastructure, high-speed internet networks, artificial intelligence projects, and digital payment systems are all part of these partnerships. They are not just investments. They are strategic tools that position Africa as a rising global power. The United States has long dominated global technology markets, but its position is no longer guaranteed. African nations are increasingly asserting their independence, exploring new partnerships, and leveraging global competition to their advantage. By working with China, they gain access to technology that is ready, affordable, and scalable. They also gain flexibility. Unlike U.S. partnerships, which often come with conditions, Chinese agreements tend to focus on delivering results first. This difference has not gone unnoticed by African governments or the global business community. Critics of this move argue that China's involvement comes with risks. There are concerns about debt dependency, long-term influence, and strategic leverage. But African leaders are confident. They see China as a partner that can provide tools, resources, and support to accelerate development. They are also learning from the past, taking precautions and negotiating terms that protect national interests. The goal is clear: secure progress without compromising sovereignty. This decision is more than an economic move. It is a political statement. Africa is demonstrating that it will make choices based on national interest, not on historical expectations or foreign pressure. It is sending a message to the United States, Europe, and the rest of the world. Africa is in control of its own destiny. It will no longer passively accept external influence or wait for development aid. That may never arrive. It is forging partnerships that serve its people and its future. The implications for global geopolitics are profound. By choosing China, Africa strengthens ties with a nation that has global ambitions and a clear strategy for influence. China benefits from access to markets, partnerships, and resources, while African nations gain the technology, infrastructure, and investment they need. This, bound by old expectations but are free to choose paths that maximize growth, innovation, and influence. The decision is already reshaping perceptions, policies, and power structures around the world. This moment will be remembered as a turning point. Africa has signaled to the world that it will chart its own course, make strategic partnerships, and pursue development on its own terms. The choice to work with China is just the beginning. The future will be defined by bold decisions, visionary leadership, and the ability to adapt to a rapidly changing world. In the coming years, global powers will adjust, trade relationships will shift, technology networks will expand, influence will be recalibrated. And Africa, having made a decisive choice, will continue to rise as a central player on the world stage. The United States was not ready for this moment, but Africa was. The world is now watching to see what comes next, and one thing is certain: the era of automatic Western dominance in Africa is over. A new chapter has begun. What Africa just did is more than a decision, it is a statement. A statement to the world, to global powers, and to its own people. For decades, Africa has been told what to do, how to grow, and which partnerships to trust. The US, Europe, and other traditional powers often assumed Africa would follow the old path, relying on promises, aid, or conditional deals. But that era is over. Africa has chosen differently. Africa has decided for itself. By choosing China for its tech deals, African nations are signaling that they will no longer wait for results that may never come. They will no longer be limited by the old rules of influence. They are taking control of their future, building the infrastructure, technology, and systems that their people need. This is a bold, daring, and unprecedented move that challenges assumptions and reshapes global power. America's reaction speaks volumes. Shock, confusion, and a scramble to understand what just happened reveal that the world underestimated Africa's ambition. But Africa was ready. It acted with clarity, vision, and strategy, recognizing opportunities and acting decisively where others hesitated. This moment is a turning point. It is a wake-up call for global powers that the center of influence is shifting, and those who fail to adapt will be left behind. The impact of this decision is already being felt. Tech infrastructure is being deployed faster. Partnerships are being formed with efficiency and purpose, and African nations are demonstrating that they can negotiate from strength, not weakness. The benefits are tangible: better connectivity, improved services, advanced industrial capabilities, and more opportunities for innovation. For ordinary citizens, this move represents hope, progress, and a future defined by their own choices, not dictated by foreign powers. But it is more than technology. It is about independence. It is about dignity. It is about showing the world that Africa is no longer willing to play a secondary role in global affairs. By choosing China over the US, Africa has asserted its right to decide its own path, to prioritize its own development, and to make strategic partnerships that align with its goals. This decision will inspire other nations. Africa's example shows that emerging powers can negotiate, innovate, and build their own future without relying on traditional powers to dictate terms. It demonstrates that strategic thinking, bold leadership, and decisive action can reshape global dynamics. Africa is no longer waiting for permission. It is leading. The road ahead will have challenges. Partnerships with China come with responsibilities, negotiations require care, and strategic management is essential. But African leaders are aware of these risks and are committed to protecting their nations while maximizing the benefits of collaboration. This is not reckless ambition, it is calculated strategy. For the United States, the lesson is clear. Influence cannot be assumed. Historical ties do not guarantee loyalty. If Washington hopes to remain relevant in Africa, it must understand that nations will choose partners who deliver results, act with respect, and prioritize development. Africa's choice is a wake-up call: adapt or be sidelined. This moment is historic. It marks a shift in global dynamics, a rise of African agency, and the dawn of a new era in international relations. Africa has shown that it is capable, decisive, and visionary. It has demonstrated that its choices can influence the world, challenge global powers, and create a future that serves its people. Africa's move is a victory not just for development, but for autonomy, strategy, and courage. The United States may have been caught off guard, but Africa was ready. And the world is now witnessing the beginning of a chapter where African nations define their destiny, build their power, and lead with confidence. This is a story of empowerment, foresight, and bold action. Africa's decision will be remembered as a turning point in global history. A moment where the world realized that influence must be earned, results must be delivered, and nations will no longer wait for permission to create their future. The era of automatic Western dominance in Africa is over. A new chapter has begun. Africa has chosen its path, taken control, and the world will never be the same.